Good morning. I'd like to call to order the May 21st, 2026 meeting of the Knoxville Historic Zoning Commission. This meeting is being recorded, so please remember to speak clearly and directly into the microphone. We'll now call the roll, please.
Morning. For the record, the Knox County Historic Zoning Commission has no business and will not meet this month. So for the City of Knoxville, Commissioner Blackburn. Here. Commissioner Midas. Here. Commissioner Bradley. Here. Commissioner Kessler. Commissioner Hearns.
Here.
Commissioner Mitchell.
Here.
Commissioner Randazzo.
Here.
Commissioner Tillman.
Here.
Commissioner Kloss. Here. That's 8 present, sir.
Thank you. We will now swear in the speakers. If you plan to speak on any matter before the commission, would you please stand now and reply with, "I do," to the following affirmation. I solemnly affirm that the testimony I'm about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. You may be seated.
Anyone that's going to speak needs to stand up and.
Yeah. You're welcome to just be here and observe and not speak, but.
Well, then please stand up and.
Okay,
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah. I solemnly affirm that the testimony I'm about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you. You may be seated. All right. All speakers are asked to limit their remarks to 5 minutes. Speakers must begin their remarks by stating their name and address for the records. Any appeals of any decisions made by this commission must be made to Chancery Court within 60 days of the date of this meeting. We'll now have the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll now move on to our level 1 staff reports.
Okay, the level 1 COA is issued since the last meeting at 1704 Washington Avenue. The applicant is removing a non-historic enclosure of the rear porch and restoring the original porch design, removing vinyl siding, and installing 8-foot tall turned wood posts to reflect the front porch. At 1000 Thompson Place, the applicant is replacing in-kind a side elevation door to reflect the existing. And then at 1039 Scenic Drive in the Scenic Drive NC, the applicant is completing a minor extension of the existing porch by an additional 4 feet towards the street, and the porch's design will reflect the existing as well.
Okay, next we'll move on to our certificates of appropriateness and staff reports. The first case is in Fort Sanders, 1803 Clinch Avenue.
Okay, I will provide a summary of some items that have been changed and just a refresher on some of the staff comments. So this is an application that has been in front of the Historic Zoning Commission in March and April 2026. This is a new building that's proposed to be constructed to the rear and left side of the existing house. It is an L shape. The building is 3 stories tall, featuring an exterior clad in brick veneer to match the primary house and a roof clad in asphalt shingles. The revised proposal has been submitted with a hipped roof revised to feature a 5/12 pitch. The revised rear elevation has projecting bay windows clad in brick siding on the 2nd story and shake siding on the 3rd. So I'll run through some of these findings and we can look at the images as well, but here are some elevations showing the revisions and then clear elevations, and we can look through the 3D views. So just as a refresher on some of the comments, the proposed project is a new building that is adjacent but not connected to the primary historic house. The project is significantly larger than a typical addition, and the placement is not typical for new construction on a vacant lot. So the design guidelines do not address this type of project. The new construction guidelines envision more common scenarios of new buildings directly oriented to the street instead of wrapping around a historic building, or additions that are secondary to the primary building. The building is proposed for what the guidelines describe as a large lot, so it's 100 feet wide. The large lot development guidelines say they would typically apply to multifamily, office, or commercial on large lots, and those diagrams show new construction on vacant lots. The proposed project has a second building larger than the first, and it is wrapping around the historic house on the rear and side of the lot. So a stated purpose of the design guidelines is to foster development that's more compatible with the historic buildings, development that is compatible with the historic buildings in the neighborhood. This building is larger in scale and more complex in massing than the original house on the lot. The new building uses the site's topography to allow for 3 stories. The revised design is smaller in height than the previous submissions, and the 3rd story is set back on at least 2 elevations. The building is more complex than the current building on the lot. Again, the revised application has revised the roof to this single cross-hipped roof line, and it has been revised to be more compatible with the primary house. However, in the opinion of staff, revising the roof pitch does not mitigate the overall scale of the house. One note on the site plan is that the guidelines allow for a 15-foot rear setback if parking is located beneath a structure. So that allows for a variance from the office zone rear setback of 20 feet, unless abutting a residential district, then 30 feet or 20% of the lot depth, whichever is less. So there is a larger rear setback that's required by the office district without this design guideline. In this application, the lower story is largely created to create spaces for parking beneath the structure, which allows the building to be closer to the rear property line. So that results in a larger building to accommodate that parking and vary the zoning standard. So while smaller items like windows, siding, and parking may meet the individual guidelines, the primary issue with the application is the overall form and scale of the second building. The second building on the lot is significantly larger in scale and more complex in massing than the historic house. The guidelines were not written with the intent of accommodating additions that are larger than the primary house, nor the construction of second primary buildings on lots that already have a primary structure. In opinion of staff, the second building does not meet the intent of the guidelines or the Fort Sanders overlay and is not appropriate. An actual addition or a smaller secondary building that is compatible in scale, massing, and design, and not clearly secondary to the primary house on the lot would be appropriate and is feasible on the lot. So staff's recommending denial without prejudice of certificate 3F26HC.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present?
Yes, good morning. Logan Higgins, 133 South K Street.
Good morning. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I'd like to just go through a few of our slides. If you could go to page 7, I believe, of our slides. Thank you. So I wanted to point out some of the context that we're using, the historic context of this block for this design. And of course, some of this is redundant. We've been here 3 times and made adjustments in between. And so I'll try to be brief, but I want to specifically point out what, again, this is the next block over, the massing and the patterns of these adjacent buildings. If you could go to the next slide. Yeah, there we go. This form of a narrow and close together and tall, like this is a very, very much in line with what was developed historically on this block. And so we've continued this pattern, this massing, the widths, and the roof shapes. And then also on our latest edition, we changed the siding on the top to match the cedar shakes of these adjacent buildings, which is something that is not necessary for us if you all feel like a lap siding is more appropriate. But you can go ahead to the next one. So the roof pitch has been a big point of discussion, making it an 8-12 pitch to meet the guidelines. But as we point out here, a lot of the other buildings on this block are low pitch. They're about 5-12 roof pitches. That's an established pattern. And then also it's not uncommon to see this kind of turned block pattern that we're trying to do here on the corner of 18th and Clinch, elsewhere on Clinch Avenue. So we don't believe that what we're doing is anything different, drastically different than the historic context. If you go to the next slide. Again, the pattern of the forms is something that we are continuing around the block here. If you go on to the next. And if you go to the 3D views that we have. and then just kind of go through these, please. So you can see, like in these views, is very minimally visible from the street. It is mostly tucked behind the house. From the topography, you don't perceive it from the street very much. You can go on to the next one. And from some angles, you can't see it at all. You won't see it at all from the very front. Keep going. And then on this view in particular, one thing I wanted to point out is, this is where you see it the most. And currently, this view, you're looking at the 5-6-story hospital as a backdrop. And it's even though it's behind the house, it still is towering, it's prominent, it's different, it sticks out in contrast to this block. Adding this not only continues that historic pattern of the adjacent block, but it fills in this gap between these buildings, where this block of 18th Street, the adjacent house is actually facing the 18th Street, whereas the main house is facing Clinch. This helps continue that pattern and, in fact, hide the hospital a little bit. And we're using those historic forms, like we've said, and minimizing. We've got lower ceilings on some floors, and again, the 512 roof pitch. And then at the end of our packet, we don't have to go to that, but we did include other alternative versions to show different roof pitches, and even doing a front-facing gable instead of a hip. But we do feel like the hip is the least invasive. So, I'll leave it at that. We've talked through this a lot, and so I'll stay here to answer any questions. And yeah.
Appreciate that. Do we have any neighborhood input on this item?
The neighborhood representative emailed that they were in support of the staff recommendation.
Okay. Any other members of the public that wanted to speak on this item? You may approach the podium and please state your name and address for the record.
You'll have to turn on the microphone, and then just when you're finished, just leave it on so everybody can use it.
Hi, my name is Steve Cottom. I am the official Knox County historian appointed by commission in 1999. I worked in the McClung Collection for 42 years, the East Tennessee History Center, and I was head of it for 37 years. So I have a keen interest in history and local history and in preservation. My first thought is that this is a very important house on Clinch Avenue and for Fort Sanders. I lived in the fort in the 1970s when I was a student. I lived in Fort Sanders Manor, second floor, northwest, looking right out on this block between Laurel and Clinch, 17th and 18th Street. And there was a Confederate memorial that said that the fort was here, but where? It's never been properly identified until the late Dr. Charles Faulkner, who is an esteemed archaeologist in the UT Archaeology Department, who did historic archaeology at Blunt Mansion, Cabot Station, various places, and his wife, Terry Faulkner, undertook to try to identify the place where the fort actually was. And they did that. They initially proposed this as a sesquicentennial project for the city, the Civil War 150th anniversary. But city engineering wanted absolute proof of everything they said. So they undertook 10 years of research. Once they got going on it, they just couldn't quit. And they had limited resources, but they were able to do archaeological research. They had some professional archaeologists who assisted them with ground penetrating radar and things they could do, because you can't just go dig up somebody's lawn to see what's underneath that without permission. But luckily they did get permission from the Carson House, the Ronald McDonald House, and that was the first place that they dug. And they found evidence of some soldier encampment right there near Clinch Avenue. So this to me is very, very important. The book that was published by UT Press in 2020 encapsulates all the research they were able to do, but it is not necessarily the final word. Underneath that block, a few inches or feet down, is the floor of the fort, whatever's left of it. And I am and have been tremendously concerned about the destruction of that by building. When you look at Fort Sanders neighborhood and what's being done there now and the massive amount of building going on, it seems to me that it's a race against time to see if we do have some opportunity to really look below the soil before the bulldozers go, or if we do not. Personally, for this, and that's really one thing I've been aggravated about, but I don't know, I haven't been able to get the attention of the city of Knoxville just yet. There was some controversy. Historians said the fort was X many feet that way. The archaeologists said it was this way. It's been contentious, but I think you have to ground proof what you say. You can't just say, we knew it was here. You have to find evidence in the soil that says, yep, this is the right spot. Reacting to this particular proposal, the building, the proposed auxiliary building, or whatever you want to call it, really dwarfs important historic architecture residence in this street. If you look at the Roddy House, you look down to the end of the block at 17th Street, the Carson House that was built in 1903, now the Ronald McDonald House, Fort Sanders Manor, designed by Charles Barber, built 1922, and then down to the next block, you have the old Fort Sanders Presbyterian Church, which was built around the time of the big reunion of the blue and the gray, which was a joint veterans reunion held in Knoxville in October 1890. And the stunning feature of that church was a big memorial stained glass window with a Union and Confederate soldier joining hands. Unfortunately, that building suffered a fire and the window is gone. But there are pieces of architecture here that are just important because they are. My bottom line is I would like to see an H1 overlay put on the house and not mess with a porte cochere because it changes the appearance of the original house, which I think is one of the more striking buildings still standing in the fort. So I guess my pitch is that a H1B, the proposed addition, is just too big and looming and lurking behind the house. And C, I think we need an H1 on that structure. And don't blast in the porte cochere. Any questions?
Yes, this is the fourth time that this applicant's come on this project. And we've not seen you here before. Why have you chosen today to come forward?
Because I've been trying to get the city's attention about archaeology, and I have not yet succeeded in that. I have been afraid this was going to happen, and I just wasn't paying enough attention. But when I saw it, I knew I had to be here. I lived in the fort. I looked out at that. I always thought the fort was here somewhere, lurking over that block. Where was it? And now we have a pretty good idea. And we did find in the McClung collection, where I used to work, an offer by the heirs of Hugh A.M. White, his daughters, to sell the remaining piece of the fort to the U.S. government in 1890 to be a historic Civil War battle site. And the U.S. government was preoccupied with Chickamauga, and they didn't act. And the building went forward. The fort's walls got leveled, streets got built, houses got built, and Fort Sanders Hospital started. The only tangible thing you can see in Fort Sanders that says Fort Sanders right now, other than a few scattered historical markers, is Fort Sanders Hospital, which is unfortunate, in my opinion. Anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your insight. Any other members of the public that wanted to speak?
Good morning, Joshua Henson, 558 Mellon. I first want to say Miss Faulkner and I have worked a tremendous amount of time together, and she has said that I am the only developer in Fort Sanders who has opened up the site, let her come do the digging. I mean, we've done 7 different digs in Fort Sanders, and all of them we let her and her late husband, come and dig and find treasure. I mean, has nothing to do with history. I mean, I love history just as much as you do, really. I just see the demand for housing. I think that what we had here and what this fort was incredible. I think it was pivotal to all of us, but it's 2026 and we need housing, and that's really what this is. I don't think this is our 4th time here, and I don't think that this is overpowering this house. I mean, I love this house. That's why I'm trying every way to make this house work. It's not because of the structure in the back. It's because of the structure in the front. That's why we're proposing all this, and we spent all this time to be here. But we have pulled, one thing I wanted to add to Logan's comment was on 18th Street, you only drive north. It's a one-way. So as you drive north, there's that big tree that's going to block 3/4 of that building. That's really the one I think everybody is worried about. And you'd have to really turn and look back to even see the backside of the building. And then when you do, the unfortunate thing is you're going to really see most of Fort Sanders Hospital. That's the reality of what we have. But when you look back, it will add some, I won't say historic, it'll add some neighborhood texture that I think is not going to be as bold and as overtaking as what we all might think it might be over that original house. But, we really want to make this project work. We've sent the owner of the property, who's the 3rd owner of this property, he sent a letter in, and I mean, we've worked on this property for 5 years now, and I do know that I will preserve, I will appreciate, I will respect 100% what this property means and what this property means to the Historic Commission. So I appreciate you all.
Thank you. Any other members of the public that want to contribute? All right, I'll open up the floor to commissioners for any questions or discussion.
I think the only thing looming and lurking over that is the building behind it. And, I don't think it's in good faith that the hospitals and the university can build whatever they want in the fort, tear down whatever they want anytime in the fort, and yet we're going to single out this particular project to make a stand. These guys have been here the 4th time. Every time they've come, we've asked them to make changes. They've made the changes in good faith. They've come back. And my understanding was from the last time that they were here that the issue was the roof. Now they've addressed the roof. And now we're saying, no, that's not going to work. Well, if we were going to deny the project, why have we been wasting their time for 3 months and not deny it in the first place?
I can certainly say, and perhaps I speak for the rest of the commission, that this application has tested this commission, tested in a way that I think is to our benefit, that really has presented some good debates in historic preservation, really made us think back to our values, because it is such a unique case and it's such a unique house. And I really appreciate the applicant's relentlessness, vigor, and adaptability. But unfortunately, that process thinking, that merit of process isn't enough, because the application has to stand alone. It's just this application. We can't change the hospital today. We can't change the direction of the roads. We can't change a lot of other conditions around. And I agree with staff recommendation that this is not appropriate because of the size, complexity, and scale, simply. It's improved a lot, but we can't grant approval just on improvement.
I have a question for Steve Cottom.
Yes.
Well, I don't know if you read the application, but I appreciate the thoughts that you gave to the commission and the historic perspective of things. It's always good to hear you speak because you have so much knowledge. I was wondering if you read the application, did you read the portion about the actual house itself and how they had planned to only make minimal, if any, changes, which is closing in the carport, from what I understand. Did you, and I was just wondering, I know they're planning to build a new building behind, but with the actual house itself, that there was only like minimal changes, which is closing in the carport. Did you?
I did read that, and I think that it changes the look of the structure when you glass in that porte cochere. I mean, to me, that's why I'm saying we really ought to have an H1 on the exterior of the house. H1, like a National Register nomination, does not mean you can't tear down the house. City would have to prove it, you'd have to prove it, but that's not a real protection, but it's the appearance of the house the way it stands today. It's a Queen Anne, pre-Georgian 18th century revival structure. And if anything, I think it needs a little more background for an H1. I think we ought to know who the architect was, which I think we might be able to find out. And the fact that J. Patrick Roddy Sr. built this house just a few years after he started Roddy Coca-Cola Bottling Company in Knoxville sort of shows his new place in the community and the important, in fact, economic effect that Coca-Cola and the Roddys were going to have in the city of Knoxville for the next century. But I personally, the only thing that bugs me is the porte cochere being glassed in, and I think an H1 would cover that.
John Holmes has brought projects in here that have been completely gutted and the roof is being held up with a 2x4, and we've approved those. It's for what it's worth.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Commissioner Blackburn said. We've been going on and on about this one, so I just trying to better understand, because we keep asking them to make changes and they're making the changes that were suggested. So, and just everything else that Commissioner Blackburn said with some of the other projects, I did appreciate the fact that they were only making a small change to the actual home itself. I think I would have had a lot more heartburn if they were talking about changing the structure of the original home, which we all care about a lot. So that's just my comments.
When I look through the guidelines, I'm a little confused by the examples they show on additions and corner lots. All of the examples are very large in scale and massing. And I know they mentioned, if you have two houses on a lot, maybe connecting them. And I could totally see if I was making a proposal myself, how I could feel this was suitable. And it does feel like it's up to interpretation if this competes with the original structure or not. And then furthermore, it's different in different neighborhoods. So it kind of sounds like in Fort Sanders, they would like to continue with the brick because the original house is brick. But then other neighborhoods' historic guidelines would say use a different siding material. So it's very obvious it's different. And personally, I kind of liked the glass proposals, which is a much more juxtaposition. But I'm just saying I'm a little confused looking at the actual guidelines themselves and figuring out how these don't fit.
I guess I have a question about, I know a lot of our discussion last time was centered around the parking underneath and the elevation having to be much higher to accommodate the parking. What changes exactly happened? I didn't quite follow you, Lindsay, from last month to this month.
The roof line was revised.
Just that. So nothing happened with the parking underneath the building?
And I'll let the applicant speak to that, but the parking footprint is more or less the same. The building itself is the same. The roof line and the roof pitch have been revised to be lower on that end.
Yeah, we That, yes. And then we also did pull it off of 18th Street a little bit more. So it is, from where we were last time, I think it was more aligned with the side of the existing, and we pulled it behind that, both on the main floors, the main and second floor, and on the third floor. That's been pulled back as well.
So it is smaller in scale and massing?
Yes.
Okay. And I guess I am not a contractor, but maybe Travis, you could address this. Like, how much, having to do this scale housing, how much would that potentially damage the original structure that's there on the property? You know, given the fact that it's age.
Physically
they're gonna
damage
have
it,
to-
like
yeah.
to connect it?
Well, they're not connecting it, right? But I mean, just doing the damage on the property, because that would be, that's a significant amount of construction.
If I could just,
Yes.
that is up to the person doing it, and if they actually care about the structure, to be totally honest. Like,
Well, but
you
things
can,
happen, right, in
Of course,
construction.
and
The bigger
that-
the bigger the scale of the building, the more chances there are that you could
Certainly.
do something like that.
But I will say, you can avoid avoidable things. And when you take precautions to make sure that we're not touching the original structure, and if you care about the original structure like our company does, we will not damage the original structure. We're not going to hurt the footers to the roof. We're not going to touch it. Now, I do think when you build something, there's always chances for issues. I mean, we've built houses 4 feet from the other one in Fort Sanders, and we've had to make sure that we don't touch the original structures. I've also had houses fall into my property in Fort Sanders because they didn't care. I mean, I've got a house on Forest that another developer, it fell into my house and had to request a demolition permit, an emergency demo, because it fell into one of my properties. But you can take the right precautions to make sure that nothing gets damaged, and it's just out of respect for what they've done. It's out of respect for what this is. I mean, Ms. Faulkner has said that I am the only one who cares. And I do. I mean, they've put 3 monuments in 3 different yards of our properties because it does mean something. I mean, this house, it's beautiful on the outside, but the inside is absolutely perfect. And that's what I don't want. I want to preserve that. And I hate that, to be frank, I hate that college kids are going to be the ones that have to live here, because I would give anything to go live here. But it's the preservation of the entire structure that's what we're really focused on. And then to make the numbers work, that's why we're building the back of it. But we will make sure that it is perfect.
And who are you? Are you
I'm the owner. I'm
owner of the
not the owner. I hope to be the owner. I'm the applicant, and I'm the person buying the property. I'm Joshua Henson.
Okay, so you're not the builder, but you're the person
Our
that
company will
you will
build
be,
it.
you will
Yes,
build it.
our company will be the contractor.
Okay.
I would suggest that you put some seismic monitors on the existing. Get your readings before you start. Take them as you go. We're building a 7-story building next door to the McClung Museum right now. We've dug deep footings on it. We've had an earthquake. That building hasn't moved, but we've got the proof from the seismic monitors. There was a Civil War trench on the parking lot where we were able to overcome that. So these are
great
things that
idea.
can be done.
Yeah, to answer Commissioner Midas's question, yeah, I think I tend to agree with the owner. As far as physical damage and risk to the building, it's probably minimal. You know, they're using a jumping jack on a footer, maybe they crack a window. It's, you know, just as likely if KUB is working on a sidewalk. You know, it takes tremendous care to work on that property, but I don't think it's something that's in the application that we really need to delve into means and methods necessarily. And Melinda, did you have something to add?
Yeah, so since Ms. Faulkner's name continues to be brought up, she had called me yesterday and regrettably was having email issues, and so she was unable to submit public comments or attend via Zoom. And she was just concerned about the placement of the building because from her research, there's a trench in the alley in the rear of the property from the Civil War. And so she was concerned that the fill dirt necessary for construction, would destroy that and could cause issues for the main house. Thought Mr. Cawthon was going to address similar things, but just wanted to bring that up, that was her feedback.
If you don't mind,
Appreciate that.
if Ms. Faulkner knew it was me doing it, I would be happy to postpone again, just to alleviate that concern if that is a true concern of the board. I promise you that if she knew it was our group doing it, there'd be different conversations.
And if I can speak more to the process, from a legal standpoint, we evaluate the applications as a thumbs up or thumbs down. Occasionally, we will make a little red line for the sake of time, like, hey, the applicant wants to do something, the staff wants it, the commission wants it, and we say, all right, approve with note, and we change something. That's really not what we're trying to do here, and we definitely don't trade horses across this room. I can't say, hey, if you make the windows arched, you can make them vinyl. That negotiation isn't part of the guidelines. It's not our job here. If we ask for things and they do them, that doesn't change our interpretation of the guidelines. 50 years from now, if someone digs up the record of this meeting to see how this building got built, they don't really care about what our suggestions are and revisions. They want to see, does this design meet? Just a yes or no.
I want to add a further comment onto what Commissioner Randazzo mentioned earlier. There is a bit of gray area here, but I think it is our job as a commission to determine does it meet or does it not meet within the gray area. That is why things come before a commission. There are guidelines, and if they were always black and white and easy to understand, we wouldn't exist. You wouldn't need us here. So that's where I think this falls. And I think we as a commission, each of us have our own opinions, and we bring with us from the fields that we represent. And I think we are all varied from different fields for a reason. And I think it's important for us to consider each other's background and what we're bringing to the table when we're considering, does this make sense or not? It's also important, correct me if I'm wrong, Lindsay, but we do not set precedents for future projects on a project by project review. It is simply based on what is in front of us. So it's not like we're not supposed to account for other projects that have been or haven't been approved based on a certain interpretation. It's supposed to be based on who is here today making the decision.
I think, I can't speak for you, you let me know. I think when he made that comment, his point was not just because of this project. I think his point was for the historic perspective of what was happening and our concern about that. I think that's what he was speaking to, that we've approved other projects, not saying because we approved other projects, we approved this one. He was just putting it in context of the historic perspective that Mr. Cottom had brought out earlier, I think. But you can confirm that.
And I agree with you too, David.
Yeah.
Well, and I think one of the issues is every time that they've been in front of us, we've had a different reason for denial. If it really is the massing and the scale, which has changed very little, then we need to go ahead and deny this without prejudice, that this type of development on this scale is simply never going to pass. Because that's been there the whole time. Or I think actually,
Can't hear you, Lisa.
She said without prejudice initially, but that's what we've been doing. I think you're suggesting denial with prejudice if we're not okay with the massing.
That's not necessarily what I think should happen, but I mean, the staff is recommending denial based on a general situation that's been here the entire time. And it's acceptable if we feel that the guidelines for massing and scale, if this does not align.
Daytona is asking me for clarification about if I felt they met the guidelines for the massing. And I mean, the staff report says, it doesn't, the guidelines address new construction that's not typical like this. It's a smaller accessory building or it's a vacant lot that they're putting a building on. This is a building that's comparable in size. And I think that is up to interpretation. But one thing I can see that I'm not sure meets the guidelines is the lack of porches oriented towards the street. And so I would bring that up as a discussion point. But to Jennifer's point, if the massing's the main issue, we shouldn't keep going. This hasn't gone through review by the city yet, right? Do you all know what the expected occupancy would be? I'm guessing like you're just designing the outside at this point, so you don't really know.
Really, yes, I really don't. Since it's kind of up in the air right now.
Address the porches.
And with regards to the porches, there's a massive courtyard in between the two houses, and that's really what we were trying to use as the outdoor space. So that's kind of the reason for the lack of porches. But, if you guys have another opinion, I'd be happy to add a porch.
With its current footprint, what's the square footage of livable space as opposed to parking?
The proposed building footprint, is that what you mean?
Of square footage, just for living space.
Let's
Oh,
see.
okay.
Yeah, and I'm apologize for not remembering these numbers right off.
Oh, it's fine. It's a little over 2,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the parking, provided parking is within the required number.
The reason I was asking if the city had seen this in another review is our group had a meeting with the city last week, and it was for a building that was going to have 16 bedrooms, and porches, new porches and more stairwells were required to be added. So I'd be concerned because of the massing of this project, if it was to be approved, that it could even be built based on the city standards.
We did have a pre-submittal conference with the city to discuss it and number of staircases, egress, all of that. And it seems like everything is aligned. So there may be some modifications internally that we'll have to make, but we're very, very confident that the exterior won't have to change for anything like that.
Are you confident that what you're doing to the original house will also not result in required egress changes?
Yes, that was one of the main goals of our pre-submittal conference, was to discuss, because it's technically a change of occupancy, because it's currently office, and we discussed specifically a path on how to preserve that interior and not have to do any major changes to it.
If I could just add, there's 1,000 nooks and crannies in this original house that we could blow out and make bedrooms, and that's what we're trying to avoid, is really preserving the natural beauty of the foyer and the sunroom and the dining room.
Yeah,
and not make it just bedrooms.
Yeah, we're keeping the layout how it is and not making any changes related to that.
Since it's uncertain how many bedrooms are going to be in it, is this going to be regulated by the IRC or the IBC?
The main house will be IRC. It'll be a duplex because there's currently a unit in the basement, and then the upstairs will be a unit, and then the new building will be IBC. And I will say we do have porches on the second floor from bedrooms coming out, where we've got that brick facade, and then it steps back on that top floor, or I guess the third floor, with porches, balconies there. So.
I have a question, Lindsay. Is this on the, I assume with the hospital being immediately next to it, this is the edge of a district?
Yes, this is the western edge of the neighborhood conservation overlay.
Okay. I think it's important to note in our discussions, whether we agree or disagree amongst us, that when we're on an edge of a district, we don't have control over what exists beyond that edge parcel. I mean, our oversight and overview is only within the district. So I understand there is a very large building there. I understand it is new and has tons of glass. I don't like it either, but I don't think we have any say over that. And we shouldn't consider that when we're evaluating this proposal.
I respectfully disagree. I think you have to take context into what's around you. And I know that particularly with Brandon Pace's house over in 4th and Gill, they were on an edge condition, and we took that into account, and we let them build a very modern house over there. So I think context is important. I do agree that it cannot influence the guideline as it's written, but I think you have to take it into context.
I feel like I got a good answer and understanding on the porches. I would move on, if we're not going to continue discussing massing, to staff point number 9 about the windows. Did you all want to give feedback on the staff's comments?
Yesterday was the last day of school. I apologize. What was that?
Point number 9.
Yeah, point number 9 from the staff, guidelines recommend that window proportions and symmetry be comparable to historic houses. And the guidelines also specify double hung windows should be used. What do you think?
We are matching the proportions of the existing to as much as we can. There are double hung windows in the back of the existing, but in the front, those are casement windows and fixed. And so we've more continued that pattern just so that we could have that consistency around. I mean, of course, on the street-facing facades, that's where you see the casement and fixed on the current house. And then on the rear and side, that's, you could either do double hung there or continue the pattern as the front. And I think that since those aren't street-facing facades, it could go either way.
Another comment was that the placement remains inconsistent on some locations, but it looks like those are probably stairwells,
Yes.
which is common. Like, a lot of houses have stairwells and have like one inconsistently placed window. Are the window configurations concerning anyone?
You can actually see that on the existing right there, where there's a staircase behind that window. Oh,
We can see it.
right there.
Can you remind us, closing in the carport, was that to create a sunroom?
That is, so currently the entrance to the bottom unit is in the rear courtyard, and it's a steep staircase going down. And so what we would like to do from the carport is move that entrance to the basement to over there, and without affecting the upstairs, because it's already lower than that finished floor, just excavate down from there. So it would be a foyer and then going down into that lower space.
To address Commissioner Randazzo's comments, I don't really have any thoughts on the windows or even the porte cochere. I appreciate you have to submit a elevation that shows details. We can't just approve just blocks, like here's a rectangle scale and then we decide the details later. But I am hung up on the scale still. So I'm not even really looking at a lot of those details as options for improvement or deal breakers, really.
And the scale is something that I know that it's not a drastic change from what we, I guess it may not seem that way, but we've stepped it back not only on the main massing, but also with that third floor being stepped back. We've done the lower roof, the hip roof, all these things that in elevation like this, it looks, everything's 2D. It looks very tall. But in reality, it is from human perspective, from the street, it's not perceived as tall as it is, as it looks in elevation. So we have done everything we can, and we even provided an alternative at the end of the packet where we step that top floor back even further. I'm not personally a fan of that because just the pattern, like I said, of those adjacent blocks, I think having it somewhat visible is a little bit better than making it kind of capped off like that. But we certainly have tried to scale it down as much as we can.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners?
Not to keep going on about the windows, but I think normally we would actually have the specs of the windows being used. And because we've been so caught up on the massing, we've not gotten there.
Yeah, that's
but
a good point.
I don't know that I've seen a new build be approved without those.
That would probably be
I mean, yeah, when they go
probably
to
follow up.
inspect it, when it's built, they need to be able to say, did you use these specific windows? And right now, they couldn't say that based on just conceptual drawings.
Yeah. I would propose that the plan is to match the proportions of those and sizing and everything of the existing front windows. And so what we would like to do, if possible, is if approved, then when staff is reviewing it, if staff feels like that we're not matching those proportions, we would come back for that review.
Is that something you would feel comfortable with, Lindsay, or is that larger than a typical staff review?
Well, the design guidelines for windows in Fort Sanders, similar to what Commissioner Randazzo was saying, or the design guidelines for windows in Fort Sanders are very different from guidelines in other neighborhoods, and they allow for a lot of different materials, including vinyl or metal clad windows, and there's a lot more flexibility there. So I would note that aspect. So, I mean, in general, yes, I think we would feel comfortable reviewing those and bringing it back, noting that these guidelines are a little more flexible than other districts.
Anyone care to make a motion? I'm not saying we have a time limit. Everybody has places to go, but speaking from the guidelines, it doesn't matter how long we deliberate. It doesn't matter if we postpone it 7, 8 times. It's again, this application has tested our knowledge, our values, and our endurance.
I'll make a motion. I'm going to make a motion to approve the application with staff approval of final window specs.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we do a roll call vote, Dallas?
Commissioner Blackburn? Yes. Commissioner Midas? Is that no? Okay. Commissioner Bradley?
Yes.
Commissioner Kessler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hearns?
No.
Commissioner Kloss? Commissioner Randazzo?
Yes.
Commissioner Tillman?
No.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Yes.
All right, that is 6 yes, 3 no.
Motion passes. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to our next application in Fort Sanders. The next application in Fort Sanders is 1634 Forest Avenue.
Okay, this is the proposed demolition of a contributing structure. So 1634 Forest Avenue is a contributing resource to the National Register Historic District and the local overlay. For demolition, the design guidelines say that the commission could allow it for structural reasons based on an assessment by an engineer and architect. The application includes engineer's letters that recommend foundation repair and replacing the interior floor joists. Floor sheathing and plumbing. This work required does not merit demolition of a contributing structure and could be accomplished without the loss of a historic house, or even without significant change to the house's exterior. So some of those photos are there. The guidelines also state that a house may be demolished if the design is so compromised that architectural integrity is lost and cannot be reestablished. The house is a Queen Anne cottage with a substantial amount of historic features, and it does retain its integrity. To summarize, in the neighborhood conservation overlay, HCC review and approval is not required for interior scopes of work. So the floor joists and plumbing could be repaired or replaced without further commission review. The guidelines are relatively flexible and allow for a variety of replacement roofing, siding, and window materials. And then basic exterior rehab does not even require a COA in the neighborhood conservation overlay. Demolishing a historic house that doesn't have major conditions, issues, or a lack of integrity is not appropriate with the intent of accommodating new construction. There is an application in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals for new construction on the property, and so a similar footprint would require variances to be constructed new. So staff is recommending denial with prejudice of this application of the proposed demolition.
Thank you. Is the applicant present?
Yes, I'm present.
Can you state your name and address for the record?
Bridget Espiritu, 6908 Terry Drive.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add to the staff application?
Firstly, I just want to thank the commission and the staff for their time in reviewing my application. Today, I'm just requesting a postponement in order to provide additional evidence and supporting documentation. Since the application was filed, we have continued gathering information on the property's structural condition, repair scope, and associated costs. I believe the current application material doesn't fully reflect the extent of the structural condition or the long-term economic and safety concerns. The existing report suggests that despite prior repair efforts, significant structural concerns remain, including ongoing settlement, sagging floor systems, deteriorated framing members, and concealed conditions that may require additional investigation. Today, I'm just requesting additional 30 days for the sole purpose of following proper procedure to conduct formal asbestos and lead testing, secure an all-inclusive quote that accounts for historic preservation mandates, provide finalized plans to salvage historical materials where feasible, and formally amend my application packet so I can present a complete and transparent economic feasible analysis. I believe those materials are important for the commission to review before making a final decision. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Did we receive any neighborhood input for this item?
The neighborhood was in support of the staff recommendation of denial.
Okay. Any members of the public that want to speak on this application? If not, we'll open the floor to commissioners.
This is for the applicant. Economic impact is not under our purview, so we cannot consider that when we see these cases. So that information is not going to support your case. You've got a letter in here from Quorum Engineering on February the 1st that lists recommendations. None of it talks about the building not being able to be saved, per se. So are you saying that you're going to go get another engineer's letter that's going to be a second opinion, if you will, that's going to support your case that the building should be demolished?
Correct. We're looking for a second opinion as this is a limited inspection report.
Well, I'll only speak for myself, but I don't think that any of that information is going to make a difference on whether this house should be demolished or not. It looks like it's in acceptable standing condition, and based on the Quorum Engineering letter, it seems like that it can be saved if you follow their recommendations.
We have an additional home inspection report that was not provided at the application at the time, and we're looking to perform more testing and sampling and just figure out the overall costs and the feasible long-term.
I would normally ask Christina this. Are you with the law department? At the mic.
I'm Allison Dyer with the City Law Department, substituting for Christina.
I had a question for you about the application. If, assuming this applicant were to get a different engineer's report and submit it in a later application, can this body use this quorum engineering report, these two reports, as a part of our discussion and decision process?
Yes, because the applicant submitted both reports, you could consider everything they've submitted.
Okay, so if they get a second opinion that disagrees, we could actually weigh both.
You could.
Okay, thank you. If there's no more discussion, I can make a motion. Normally, I make motions in dire circumstances, but also in modifying the agenda. Here, the applicant is requesting a postponement, similar to modifying an agenda. If no one else has any other comments or thoughts on, because it does disagree with the staff recommendation, we can postpone per the applicant's request.
I'll second.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. Next, we'll move to Old North Knoxville, 213 Leonard Place.
Right. This application is for a new 10-foot wide by 10-foot deep shed to be placed at the rear of the lot. 213 Leonard Place was built in 2024 and is non-contributing. The shed features composite wood vertical groove siding and a 6/12 pitch front gable roof, and the side elevation features a vinyl sliding window. Revised specs were submitted after the staff report that include fiber cement lap siding and 9 vinyl transom windows. That's the spec you see below on the screen. The design guidelines for outbuildings are prescriptive about materials and features. The shed employs the recommended doors with perimeter trim, but it does not include any other recommended features. While the roof is not 12/12 pitch, sheds with a similar pitch have been approved in the overlay. The composite wood vertical groove siding has been revised to fiber cement lap siding that meets the guidelines. The proposed vinyl windows are not appropriate. The windows should be omitted or revised to be double hung or single hung and made of wood, aluminum clad wood, or fiberglass to align with the guidelines and materials approved in the overlay. With that, staff is recommending approval of Certificate 5A26HC, subject to the following conditions. The siding profile to be board and batten or lap siding with a 4-inch reveal, and the windows to be omitted or revised to be single hung or double hung and made of wood, aluminum clad wood, or fiberglass, with final specifications submitted to staff for approval.
Thank you. Is the applicant present?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Do you have anything? Can you state your name and address for the record?
Fatima Alathari, 2701 Eugenia Avenue, Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay. Do you have anything to add to the staff report?
No, I just need to do more research in it's being approved with the additional requirements, and just make sure that we can meet all those guidelines, and just check back in, and let you know, give you an update on everything.
Okay, thank you. And
we're the actual homeowners. That's our tough shed person that's representing us.
Okay.
So I guess the question.
Can you state your name
yes,
and address?
Kenneth Gilbert, 213 Leonard Place.
Thank you.
And Jenna Davis, 213 Leonard Place. So yeah, my question here is, so it sounds like with the changes that we've made, the only thing that you're saying now is to drop the transoms around the sides and the back?
Yes, to drop them or revise them to a single hung or double hung window that's not made of vinyl.
Yeah, they don't make anything like that. It would require custom stuff. So maybe the one question I would have, we're trying to get a little bit of light into the shed. This is a simple 10 by 10. After an hour, I was like, wow, they have a much bigger situation than we do. Is it possible for us to potentially put just some transoms on the back that faces the alley to get some light in there? You wouldn't see it from the street. Is that something that would be permitted? It's a simple shed. Just asking.
Yeah.
And we are non-contributing, and I don't know if this plays into any part of it, but if you look around the perimeter of our property, all I see are out-of-spec sheds. This is going to look way better than the barns and the metal sheds, and literally a tough shed that I can see that is all the wrong things. So, just curious. I don't know how flexible we are here. Just checking.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I think accessory sheds are a little bit of a blind spot for neighborhoods. They don't get the phone calls. Again, staff, they aren't driving around trying to find infractions. So those pre-existing things, they happen, they exist. But as far as transoms facing the alley, do the guidelines address this?
So the guidelines specifically have a list of recommended features that they want included on outbuildings. And for windows, they say they want double hung wood windows. I believe we have approved sheds with transom windows before, but they haven't been made of vinyl. I didn't find any record of us ever approving vinyl windows on outbuildings within the overlay. But again, this is a non-contributing structure built in 2024.
May I ask, were there siding changes that you said would need to be required as well?
So the staff recommendation was based on the original submittal and requested that the siding be border batten or lap siding, and y'all have since revised it to lap siding that would meet that condition.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right. Was there any neighborhood input for this project?
Sean Bolin, 115 East Scott Avenue, representing Old North Knoxville. First, I want to thank the applicants for working with the neighborhood and working with the commission to come up with a proposal that hopefully meets all the guidelines. I'm in agreement, or I'm sorry, the neighborhood is in agreement with staff recommendation that the windows have to be changed. The vinyl, allowing vinyl windows, even though you are not a precedent-setting body, would cause issues down the road for many applications in the future. So I hope you take that into consideration. At the end of the day, though, this is a shed. It's temporary by nature. It can barely be seen from the road. If unique size windows face the alley, I don't think the neighborhood would have that much concern with it. But we do have to support our guidelines that say 1/1 windows, and definitely not vinyl. Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks. Any other members of the public that wanted to speak on this item? No? Okay. I'll open up the floor for discussion or questions from the commission. Or we can have a motion.
If there's no discussion, I'll make a motion to approve based on staff recommendation.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Next, we'll stay in Old North Knoxville with 430 East Scott Avenue.
Okay, this is the proposed replacement of an original terracotta tile roof with a new architectural shingle roof. The overall roof pitch, roof lines, chimney, and eave overhangs will be retained, and this includes repairs as necessary to the original chimney. So the tile roof is a character-defining feature of the house. It has the half-barrel tiles on the ridge and the small finials at the roof peak. The tile roof is an original or a historic element of the house. A tile roof typically meets the end of its life expectancy around 100 years as the tiles are too brittle to safely repair via patching, and this is verified by the owner, and the roof has had chronic leaks. In general, these replacements have been approved in Old North Knoxville, recommending that approximately 100-year lifespan of the original materials and the difficult nature of significant repairs. There are recent comparable cases listed in the staff reports where cement tiles were approved to be replaced with dimensional asphalt shingles that match the existing in color. The slope will be retained, including that clipped gable dormer and the chimney. The ridge tiles and the finials will be removed. They could maybe be replicated. Some architectural shingle products can sufficiently replicate that pattern, texture, and color of terracotta tile roofs, so the final product should be selected to replicate as much as possible the texture and color of the existing roof and submitted to staff for approval. There is an overall product included in the application packet. So the staff recommendation is to approve 5B 26HZ, subject to the conditions that the final product reflect the original color as much as possible with a spec submitted to staff for approval, and then all repairs to the chimney follow MPS preservation brief 2.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? It's coming down.
You state my name? David Sneed, 3541 Buffett Mill.
And Thomas Payne, 3557 Buffett Mill.
All right. Do y'all have anything to add to the application?
No, that was pretty much it. It's just.
Can you stand a little closer
Yes,
to the mic? Sorry.
Yeah. The main thing is repair. I used to get up there and Spider-Man to try to not crack any of the tiles, 3 things on there at all times, but I can't do that anymore. Like, they just crack when I get up there, unfortunately. We had gone to salvage yards and bought tiles to repair, and that worked for 20 years, but now it's just too old. So, okay.
So you have no concern about the staff recommendation? You're good with it?
No, that's
Okay.
fine, yeah.
Do we have any neighborhood input on this project?
Sean Boland, 115 East Scott Avenue, representing Old North Knoxville. Roofs are wear items more than any other part of a historic structure. So we are comfortable with applicant replacing these tile, which unfortunately are very attractive, but they have them at the end of their life. So we're comfortable with replacement with asphalt shingles.
So you're saying that you're okay with staff recommendation?
I forget staff recommendation, I'm sorry.
It's to approve that the color reflect the original and a spec be submitted to staff for approval, and the chimney repairs follow the Park Service preservation standard.
Yes, we agree.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other members of the public that want to speak on this item? Okay, we'll open up for commission discussion.
If we don't have any discussion, I would like to make a motion.
I do.
Oh.
This is for the applicant. This isn't part of your application, but if you zoom in on that little vent up there on that faux dormer, there's a lot of rot. Are you guys going to address that while you're fixing this as well? I mean, as I said, it's not part of this, but I'm just pointing out it's part of the roof system.
Definitely would like to fix that. Haven't been able to because I couldn't stand there, but now I'll be able to fix that, yeah.
All right, yeah, thank you. That's all.
I have a question regarding the selection of color. That's matching the tiles? What was the color of the tiles?
That is a great question. I don't know.
Okay.
Because it's been that color probably for 60 years. I don't know what the original was. That was a question I actually had for y'all, if you knew. Is it dark red, maybe?
When I first read this, I hadn't seen the photos, and I was like, are we trying to find a clay-colored shingle? You know, we've never really specified color of shingle in our
We often do with it. We tend, it's common to make the recommendation that the color reflect the originals, and I think the design guidelines actually say historic roof colors would have been darker shades of brown, gray, red, green, or black. And then they say the best roof materials to use when roofing are replicas of the original. If that cannot be done, asphalt or fiberglass shingles can be used, but their colors should be carefully selected to reflect the original roofing colors. And so with a situation like this, it does allow for a little flexibility for the applicants.
Thank you. I stand corrected.
And just a point of clarification, these are not terracotta, which are orange in nature. These are cement. So more than likely they were gray toned. Don't know for sure, but they are cement, not terracotta.
Thank you.
I would like to make a motion. I move that we approve based on staff recommendation.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, next we will go to 1321 Armstrong Avenue.
This application includes repairs with in-kind replacement as necessary of the cedar shake siding and the in-kind replacement of the asphalt shingle roof. They are proposing to remove the original stucco-clad brick chimney on the side elevation and will install a new chimney in its place. The chimney is substantially deteriorated, so removal can be appropriate. However, the new proposed chimney will not match the exact design of the original chimney, which narrows at the second story where the smoke chamber meets the flue. The design of the replacement chimney should be revised to include this narrow section, with final drawings to be approved by staff. They are also requesting to replace a variety of non-original windows with 1/1 double-hung wood windows and single light wood transom windows. The majority of the windows on the house are 1/1 double-hung replacements with isolated examples of various multi-light profiles, and some were replaced without permits. Some of the existing transom windows could be original, but they are not character-defining. The new windows replicate the sizes of the existing, but they do not replicate the profiles of the transom windows and multi-light windows. The proposed replacement windows are appropriate because they are consistent with the others on the house, and it is not possible to determine the house's original window profiles. Staff is recommending approval of Certificate 5F26HC, subject to the following conditions. The small shingles in the gable fields be retained, the design of the replacement chimney to replicate the existing, with final drawings to be approved by staff and included on plans submitted for permitting, and the replacement window trim to match the existing, with final drawings to be approved by staff.
Thank you. Is the applicant present?
Yeah, Marlo Pant, 214 East Scott.
All right. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I agree with staff recommendations. The only two things, Sean and I talked, on the chimney, the goal is to save it. I applied to replace it. We're going to take the stucco down. If it can be restored, I'd love that. It's a lot more cost effective. But I wanted to apply in case we, get the stucco off and it's unsavable. So that was my only comment on there. If we do have to replace it, that's great. Make it look the same. Totally agree. On the windows, my only question there, so it's such a hodgepodge of what's going on in the current house. Trying to think through the windows that I submitted, creating some cohesion there. That's the only kind of comment in there. The front on that top left one that we're looking at there, that's the only one that looks like that. Really unique, weird window that's in really bad shape. So I would love to be able to have some cohesion with the other wood windows that we're doing. So that was the only kind of thing that I had in there.
Thank you. Does the neighborhood have any input on this item?
Sean Boland, 115 East Scott Avenue, representing the neighborhood. As far as the chimney is concerned, we are opposed to removal of a chimney, but I appreciate the homeowner working with the neighborhood to try to retain it and talking through the entire application, but we would like the chimney retained as it's not showing any structural integrity issues. As far as the cedar shake goes, and this is a question for staff, that's not original cedar shake. Understanding replacing in kind, but at some point in time, there's a ratio that's in our guidelines that state if you remove, for example, 30% of vinyl siding, then you have to go back to original. So I just want the ratio to be enforced here, since we know that's not the original siding. But as long as they meet the guidelines, we're in support of cedar shake replacing. The only other issue that we have is with the transom windows that you see on the lower left there. Those aren't original. Once they remove those are not protected any longer or grandfathered in. So we would like 1/1 windows to replace those spots.
Okay, thank you. Any other, sorry, not trying to cut you off. Any other members of the public that wanted to speak on this item? If not, open the floor for commission discussion or questions.
My question's for Sean. I don't know if I heard you correctly. Sean, did you say you are opposed to removing the chimney?
Yes, yeah, it's a key architectural feature. You can see the entirety of it from the street. And so removing a key architectural feature is not allowable within our guidelines. And we can see it looks structurally sound from all the photos.
So you would, even if you replaced it in like kind, that wouldn't suit you? Suit the neighborhood?
The guidelines are specific.
Okay.
And my job is to enforce the guidelines.
Okay, yeah.
My personal opinion can be different, but should not be discussed here.
Understood. Thank you.
So there's some photos of that chimney. If you look at the bottom of it, I mean, you touch it it's not structural. Inside the house, so whether it's flashing inside the chimney, I don't know until we get the stucco off, but you've got water coming in, so it's definitely not structurally great. You can see by these photos in the bottom here.
So are you proposing to remove the stucco and repoint if possible?
Yeah, would love that if we don't have leaks and structurally it's good after we get that stucco off.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I submitted this way was if we get to that point and then it's like, holy cow, we can't do anything, then I'm in the bind with, we've got it taken down, I gotta wait maybe a month to get approved. So the goal is to approve it, to replace, but to save. And if I can't save, the guys are there removing stucco, it's getting removed.
Okay. I'd say when you remove that stucco, any leaks that you have are going to get worse.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Can staff or maybe Sean or anyone else speak to the value of the stucco itself as a contributing portion of this chimney? Do we know if it's original? Should there be stucco back, or can it be repointed and finished that way?
So I believe, based on the National Register nomination, stucco was applied after that point. In the early 90s, having seen the chimney in person, the stucco is falling off in huge sheets.
Mm-hmm. And potentially it could be removed and repointed and perfectly preserved at a cost savings for the homeowner. Flashing and a chimney cap will resolve leak issues. This house is incredibly unique, both inside and out, in that it has been heavily modified and stylized. So we would prefer the stucco removed and repointed.
Is your proposal for the applicant to add elbow flashing around like that shoulder? I don't know if that's the proper architectural term for that chimney, but the part where it expands wider at the bottom.
Yeah, if it was added there, it would be all behind the siding, so it wouldn't be seen.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I guess this is a question more for the board or staff, but if we gave them the option of being able to repair it, who would be responsible for making sure that they actually tried to repair it and it wouldn't work?
Could revise the existing staff condition, to account for that. So I drafted something slightly based on the discussion. So, you could revise condition number 2 to the design of the replacement chimney to replicate the existing with final drawings to be approved by staff and included on plans submitted for permitting, unless repairs to the existing chimney in accordance with National Park Service Brief 2 are feasible with documentation provided to staff of the chimney's condition.
So the documentation provided would state that it's not able to be salvaged?
Yes, that would, consist of pictures most likely or quotes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Just two things. One thing I want to say on the chimney is the goal is to have a functioning wood chimney, which is when you're thinking about repairing it versus replacing it. Could I just repair it and have a non-functioning chimney? For sure. But I think for us, the goal is a real functioning fireplace, so it needs to be really well done. And then the second point in here, in terms of the staff recommendation, the recommendation was to approve the replacement based on mimicking the design. So The only pushback I have is on having to get, if the inspection of a repair, it was already recommended to approve based on the current design. So that would be my only comment on that.
Okay. I would feel more comfortable that this body evaluate, is this repairable with input from the neighborhood? Sean, I'm not trying to sign you up for things, but that's in theory, if the stucco is removed and the applicant thinks it's not repairable, I would want your opinion on that. So I would want that to come back here as opposed to staff approval.
I'm in agreement. Whenever we talk about demolition comes before the board. So I think I'm in agreement, and I will work with the homeowner and inspect the chimney once the stucco is removed. I have no problem with that.
And as far as the functioning chimney, I've met plenty of fireplace contractors that carry much heftier insurance policies than my company does. And we're going to have to kind of delineate the line of, I would prefer a new brick fireplace versus it's required. That's going to be a difficult process. And then at that point, are we evaluating the historic value of smoke coming out of the chimney? Is that even something we look at, whether it's functioning or not?
I feel like that's the ultimate goal of a fireplace, though, is it's functioning. So that's why I do think this could be, you could have, I've had a few contractors already out, and they've said, yeah, this is bad. We need to replace it. You could get a couple of people subjectively that could say, like, oh, no, you could take it down and tuck point it, look good. And that's why, it's going to cost me a lot more money to replace the whole thing than to do what you're recommending, which I would love. So that's why I went with kind of the more aggressive approach of, let's replace it to the original look with a new brick. If we can get it down and we can save it, I would prefer that. But I would like to be able to have the option to just replace it once we get it taken down if it's not safe.
It's interesting. Most of the time we're discussing these chimneys as vestigial organs, not as a functioning fireplace. So I'd be really curious, once the stucco is off, what fireplace contractors think of the integrity of it, if you can even put a flue down it.
Yeah, well, and when you're inside the house, like when you look into it, it's really, really bad. Like there's buckets, the old homeowner had buckets in there because water would just come in. And so it's like, this is in a tough shape, so.
I have a non-chimney related question. The comments from the neighborhood about the transom windows, is that something you could do feasibly or not do feasibly?
Could you give me more detail?
Sean, can you repeat your recommendation about that?
Yes, the transom windows are grandfathered in, but once they remove them, the space of that window is not grandfathered in, so they'd have to revert to 1/1 windows in appropriate spots on the sides wherever they have transoms.
I'm a little confused in what areas we're talking about. All the windows that we have in there, so like in the top left, that's a fixed window. Behind it, those are shutters inside the house, so it looks like it's has 4 panes. It's not. That's a shutter inside. The windows that I have that are fixed on the quote that was attached are fixed. The left bottom over here, those are the ones that are actually shown there. So the only one that's in question that's not like for like is that top left one that I'm talking about, trying to mimic more of what's the remainder of the house is. Just not knowing what is original.
We are in agreement that the street-facing upper window is inappropriate and should be 1/1. The windows in question are the alley-facing or the chimney-facing transom windows that you see right there that flank the right and the left of the chimney.
Sometimes we start talking about, like, was this an original thing, or a later addition. And there was an interesting one at Major Reynolds' place where they had a door installed in the 1950s that then became historic by its own right. And I think when things have happened to these homes, if those windows are already from 1976, that's within the 50-year window. Am I doing my math correctly?
That is.
So, I mean, they can have their own historical precedent as a way that families have used these houses. So I would extend some flexibility.
I will say that it appears the house was significantly rehabilitated in the mid-century. In the 90s, before there was a fire in this house, that like 3-light casement profile you see on the top left was that window, the window below it, and those paired windows there that were installed without permits. So, the same thing with the transom windows, all those have been there for a while. That's probably about the time the cedar shakes were also installed.
I actually have a photo of before the fire, and the cedar shakes were on it, so for what that's worth.
We have actually taken into consideration historical changes that meet the 50-year threshold. Some cases were permastone attached to Victorians because it was made here, manufactured here, and we're losing lots of permastone. So we have done that in 4th and Gill. However, the one in 4th and Gill was a nice installation. I don't think these on either side of the chimney are nice, though the house is remarkable on the inside with all the work that they've done, clearly, in the past.
I think the only thing I would push back on is, based on what Lisa's saying, is like, if I'm changing those left and right, it seems like I'm obstructing it more than just leaving them. So it seems more obstructive to change the exterior profile of windows versus not knowing the history of it.
There's a guideline that states if replacement windows are necessary, they shall be the same overall size as the originals, with the same pane division and same muntin depth, width, and profile. They shall be the same materials as the original windows, which were generally wood. And then it talks about true divided lights. And I think in that instance, you're interpreting it as those are original windows. Just because they exist there does not mean they are the original windows. And that's where the difference is coming in. Just to clarify the discrepancy between the points of view here.
Yeah, I don't think we know what's original on it. There's so many different ones on there that it's hard to know.
Yeah, this is ambiguous. This is tough. Like, I feel like you're acting in good faith to try to rhyme some of the ambiguities and maybe not original, but very old windows with new. Yeah, I'm not sure, honestly.
And that was my goal in working with Lindsay on making sure the windows I was submitting were in the guidelines of, wood, interior, exterior, the pane divisions, there's no buttons inside the windows. So still trying to have a historic feeling window and not knowing like what to mimic or what to try and copy with the existing, because there is a lot of different stuff going on. So the thought process when submitting this was, let's try and find the most historic looking thing that I can to provide cohesion to the house. Yeah, so.
This house has a lot of work on the outside, I can see, and I appreciate you taking it on. I want to encourage you in that process. I get really nervous when we start cutting more holes in these houses and changing window sizes. I think that that's going to cause more issues with the longevity of the home, and so I'm less concerned about, taking it back to 19 whatever, but just maintaining it as it is. If you have the resources to take it all the way back, by all means. But I'd like to address the staff point number 2 about the chimney. in other chimney removals, if they've been allowed, we've had to have a letter from a chimney repair company or something. And so I think that there is a little bit more burden on you, unfortunately, to prove that it absolutely needs to come down before we can do that. So I'm ready to make a motion based on staff recommendation, omitting number 2. Is that sufficient?
So based on the photos I submitted on the deteriorate, like what other stuff is needed for that?
I'm
'Cause I've
sorry,
had a couple-
was the motion seconded or not?
The motion was not seconded.
Okay.
But I believe I can answer your question. We've discussed more documentation of deterioration by a fireplace and or a masonry contractor. I think that's what we would be referring to, and it coming back before the board. But now we have a motion. Motion and a second.
Yeah, I'll second.
It seems like if you're omitting that one, then you're approving the chimney replacement, because that's kind of in the application. So you might want to be clear about, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel like I would request to amend the motion to repair the existing chimney, and if that can't be repaired, that it come back before the board.
And Melinda's given us that language.
The language I gave was documentation submitted to staff.
Okay.
Can I ask a clarification on that? So I'm in agreement with, if we can do that, that's great. If we take this stucco, just practically speaking, construction-wise, if it's removed, and this is at the beginning of the month, and the next meeting's at the end, and now we have a month of a chimney that's open, and issues are now getting bigger and bigger, I have to wait a month after removing this stucco, or do I need to time it to where I'm removing it on the 18th, and, you know?
You gotta wait and tarp it. That's the best we can offer. And again, I'm trying to be patient here and have an open communication. We do have a motion and a second, so we're really only commissioners should be speaking now, if that's okay. Unless we have a question directed to the neighborhood.
Yeah, my attempt with this motion would be to allow you to get a permit to start working on everything without the chimney, if this were to go through. And so then you could come back with more information about the chimney, because if this doesn't get approved, all of your permits are on hold. So I would like to separate that issue. So I guess, can it be a denial without prejudice for the chimney?
Can we postpone the chimney? And that way it can be added to the next, or any future meeting by postponing it instead of denying it?
I think our motion would have to address, we can approve the removal of the stucco and attempted repair, I think would be what everyone's trying to achieve here.
I hate to interrupt, but you have a motion and a second. You need to vote on that motion before you start, or amend the motion before you start discussing additional motions.
Yeah, I was hoping to amend that motion. We omitted the staff recommendation number 2, and I would propose an amendment if you're open to it. I don't know if you have.
Yes,
Okay.
That's how I would like to amend it.
Okay, to amend the motion to allow for the stucco removal and repair of the existing chimney per MPS standards, mortar and repointing, et cetera.
Does the seconder agree with that?
My second does agree with that. Could you come to some design review board meetings in the future, please?
I appreciate. I knew we were on that edge there. I thought we just.
I appreciate you all being cautious about voting and not voting. So you have a motion that's amended and a second.
Okay.
So you can vote on that motion
All right.
now.
Are we ready to vote? All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. And if you have further questions about what all of that means, staff is happy to help you interpret all of our mumbo jumbo and our legal process.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Next, we are still in Old North Knoxville, 1520 Fremont Place.
Okay. So this is the after-the-fact review of major exterior rehabilitation, and then this application includes new items to be installed to mitigate the removal of original materials. So the application has included the installation of new materials. The cut sheet provided by the applicant includes new windows that are wood, featuring simulated divided lights with interior spacer bars and 7/8 of an inch simulated muntins. And the proposed windows include 3/1 double hung windows on the facade, 13 8-light casement windows, some are fixed and some are operable, and then multiple 1/1 double hung windows, plus 4 single light transom or fixed windows, and then a picture window to be installed on the rear elevation. That's replicating an in-kind window, and I'll go through these. The window that was enclosed on the second story on the right side will be reopened with a new double hung wood window in the original rough opening. And then the applicants removed the original wood window trim, and the new window trim that is proposed will be a fiber cement trim boards with 4-inch casing, and then projecting sills made of flat 1x6 and 1x2 boards. And then the application also included the installation in patches of faux grained fiber cement siding, and then the replacement of a exterior door with a fiberglass 3/4 light door. So I'll talk through primarily the windows. So most of the original or historic windows were removed without COAs or permits. Plans review and inspection staff visited the property on March 11th, 20th, and 27th, and additional exterior work was completed between the 3 visits. So the vinyl windows that were installed were denied by the HCC in April, and so the current application has specs for the newer revised items. So the house featured an array of original or historic windows, including 3/1 double hung wood windows on the front and sides, 2/2 double hung wood windows, and then a 3-part picture window on the rear elevation you can see here. And so just to speak to some of the proposed replacements, the facade upper level windows are now proposed to be double hung 3/1 wood windows, replicating the material, operation, and pane division of the originals. While the guidelines do specify true divided lights, in Old North, simulated divided lights with exterior muntins and spacer bars have been approved as replacements. On the side and rear elevation windows, they were a combination of 2/2s, 3/1s, and 1/1s. As you can see on the right side, there was a 4/1, multiple 2/2s, and then a fixed single light window. The application proposes, and then on the rear elevation, you can see 3 adjoining 3/1 windows as well on that upper story. And then we can see some of evidence of these original windows on the interior photos from the real estate listing as well. So the application is proposing 1/1 double hung wood windows for all side and rear elevations other than the in-kind replacements on the facade, and then the transom and picture windows. So the pane division on the right side elevation and the rear elevation, these are the ones that are significantly visible from the street, should be revised to reflect the original pane divisions. The sunroom windows, these had paired 8-light casement windows, so they were overall 10 bays, and there were 2 windows each, so those are 20 individual casement windows. The application is proposing, instead of these paired, a single casement window in each of the fenestrations. So it's reducing the number of windows in each fenestration by half. These casements will be larger than the originals. They are more aligned with the guidelines than those currently installed. In the opinion of staff at this point, it is not necessarily, and it may not be feasible to reinstall these paired 8-light casement windows, so that's 20 smaller instead of the proposed 10 that would go in there, as simulated divided lights would not necessarily sufficiently replicate the style and rail measurements, the pane division, or the overall size. So the commission should discuss if these 8-light windows are sufficient or if full-light casements are more appropriate or another configuration. And the window cut sheet that was provided as part of the application does not contain an accurate count of the windows, so and we can discuss this further. And we did receive a revised count at 5 yesterday, so that's not included in the application right now. To speak to the window trim, the proposed window trim is fiber cement with a 1x2 header, 4-inch casing, and a 6-inch projecting sill. The fiber cement may be appropriate for a house clad in asbestos shingles with fiber cement patching. The trim does not reflect the design of the original trim that was removed. The 4-inch is wider than the original, and then that 6-inch projecting sill will be disproportionate to the windows. So a revised specification should be submitted to staff for approval. The window that was enclosed is proposed to be reopened. Those photos are in your application packet. And the existing siding is asbestos shingles. So the guidelines recommend that replacement siding duplicate the original, and the threshold that we discussed was a 50% threshold for repairs to non-historic siding. It does not appear that more than 50% of the existing synthetic siding was removed. The asbestos shingles have been clarified to have a faux wood grain typical of asbestos shingles. Other districts have approved this as a patch for these shingles in Mechanicsville, and these have a faux grain detailing on the installed siding. The boards are longer than the asbestos shingles, but they have the same width and thickness, and the additional length won't be visible when painted. The door to be removed is most likely not original to the house. The proposed door is a 3/4 light fiberglass door with a single panel below, and it meets the guidelines as it does not create a false historic appearance and is compatible in size, scale, and material with the house. So the staff recommendation here is pending additional commission input on the proposed replacement windows. Staff is recommending approval of 5G26HC, subject to the conditions that the pane divisions on the new windows on the right side and rear elevations reflect the pane division of the original windows. The window trim be revised to better reflect the historic trim's design and size, and trim be installed between the adjoining windows with final specs submitted to staff. The window trim to be applied to windows on all elevations, and then the revised window scheduled to be submitted to staff for approval, showing the specific locations for each window.
Thank you. Is the applicant present?
Charity Honeycutt, 1520 Fremont Place.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. Do you have anything to add to the staff report?
No, sorry for the late submission yesterday. They got over there very late yesterday. But yes, we are working on getting the wood windows replaced. I was trying to think.
I'll jump in.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Amanda Farlow. I don't know if I need to state where I live, but 9 Emery Place. Okay, so the windows, yes, I got over to Lindsay at 5 p.m. because the window company, I think we've looked at this quote 15 million times, Lindsay and I both, making sure that everything was up to date. So I did resend that with all the locations. We're not losing, I think there was something in there about losing the panes. They aren't able to do that anymore where it's grouped together, so it has to be individually done, but we would still have the same amount of windows for that. As far as the trim, I know everyone keeps saying it was wood trim. It was never wood trim when we started taking that off. It was cement board, so we were replacing it back with the hardy cement board that they used. And then I guess my question when we're doing the trim on this, so they used a 1x2, like that they turned to the side, then they had a 1x4, and then they had to shim, like some of those boards are like 1 3/4, some of them are, where it's just settled over time. So when I'm doing those, obviously when we're installing those, we're kind of at mercy to like the constraints of the house. So I did 1x4 because that's the consistent of the boards in between the trim casing on those windows. Some of them are literally like 1 1x3 and 8/16 and all the things, just depending. So I don't know how better I can duplicate that unless you want me to have a drawing for every single window with the exact dimension as it needs to be cut. And then they did, again, like a 1x2, another 1x6, and they had like a header that stuck out to give it that little ledge detail. So that's what we're going back with for the windows. So not changing the design, but literally going back with new material with the same detail that they had to create that. So that for the windows on that, you have the locations now for those, and everything should be correct because we've double checked it 15 million times at this point. That was the only thing I think on the windows. And then the siding, I think if we need to rip some of those down to make them not as wide, that's totally fine. I just need clarification on that to tell the contractor and the team.
Okay, thank you. Is the neighborhood, or Sean, would you like to add anything here? Neighborhood input?
Sean Boland, 115 East Scott Avenue, and I applaud all of your endurance. You're going to be here longer than me. As far as the street-facing windows on the upper portion of the house, 3/1 wood, we're comfortable with. As far as the windows on the side and the rear, cohesive 1/1, we can live with that. I do have a point of clarification. Which door is being replaced? The front door. The neighborhood objects to the sunroom and front door replacement. Arguably the most attractive architectural detail on the house is the cohesiveness of the windows on the front and their style, French casement or twin casement windows there. That's going to be destroyed by the proposed application, and I would like to see them replace the windows that not me, the neighborhood would like to see them replace the windows in the same style and pane division as they have. And if you look at the front door also has the same pane division by size and scale, so it is harmonious all the way across.
Thank you. Any other members of the public that wanted to speak on this item? If not, we'll open the floor for commissioners to speak and ask questions. Or staff.
I guess for those windows, we have to replace them, right? Like we can't leave the house with what is installed now. So they're 8 panes, which is the exact same. So I guess I just need clarification when you're saying, because all of them operate the same.
I'm happy to clarify. So what's you guys have here is you have, say here on the front, 5 openings. But these were 2 individual windows that opened like this or like this. And then what you have proposed here is 1 window to fill those openings. So this is, you have, I think it's 10 overall for 10 overall openings, but originally this was 20 windows, 1, 2, 1, 2. And that's the point of contention, I think. And I think in this instance, the staff recommendation was different from the neighborhood perspective, and now the commission will kind of discuss all that.
Okay. Sorry, I was just trying to get clarification. And they do operate, like they open up the same as the old ones.
Well, but they don't, because these 2 would have opened either inward or outward, because it's 2 as opposed to 1 that would open like this.
Okay.
It's double the set of hinges for each opening.
Okay. So I guess with that to move forward, those windows haven't operated, and I couldn't tell you how long because they've been painted shut. So with that, to get those windows revised.
That's what we're going to be discussing.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to get clarification and understanding of what I need to communicate to the people that are actually making the windows. So that's where I'm asking all these questions.
Sure.
So when we're doing this, I just basically need to tell them, which I could have that revised, no issue, that it needs to be the 5 panes, or just like that, and then open from the middle versus them opening up on where it's 1 window. That's what I need to tell them?
Possibly. That's the commission's going to discuss the value of a French door casement versus a single panel, which you proposed.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Which we don't often see casement windows in the front of a house in this neighborhood, but being in an enclosed porch, it is unique.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get understanding. I feel like I'm asking a million questions.
And I wanted to ask about the window trim. I was struggling for the word. I'm not a trained architect, but I was looking at that. What you propose is a 1x2, and I'm straining my eyes looking at the original from the 2017 photos, 1x2, that looks like it could be 1x2. That's kind of big like normally your step flashing would be over just a single piece of casement. That's not as thick. If any trained architects on the board would like to describe what that normally looks like, but if this were my project, and I was just going off of this photo, I would be asking a design professional to draw me what this thing looks like, just to be sure.
You mean the way it's been handled between each window?
I'm talking about the header piece on top of each window, but I've got issues as we go down to more questions.
It's a 1x2 turned on its side to create that ledge. That's exactly what it is with a one.
It's got a ledge there that even extends into the corner casing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly how it was trimmed out.
Is that a historic detail that is worth preserving, or is that an odd modification?
It doesn't appear to have existed prior to 2016, and before 2016 it wasn't there, and there were storm windows. That is probably what was keeping water from going in the house, and when those were removed in 2016, it created issues.
Commissioner Bradley, if you'll turn on your microphone, please.
I would keep something slightly proud just because of water mitigation issues.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sean, yeah, feel.
Very good point. 2 inches is way too far. Typically, the overhang is 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch. So, you're talking 1.5 inches total.
If I were trying to do this in the field without a design body viewing it, I would do the thickness of my thumb.
Well, nominally, it's really like it's not actually 2 inches, it's 1 3/4 nominally when you actually get the product, right? Yeah. So you lose 1/4 of an inch when you have the product, even though it's just like 2x4s today. They're not actually 2x4s anymore.
And looking at the casing of the upper windows, it does look like it's a 4-inch casing. Between the casements on the lower story, is that a 2-inch casing between the older ones?
Some of them are like 3 3/4. Some of them, it's just, everyone is a different dimension.
Mm-hmm. But you want to make them the same, which is something that we can accommodate. But
yeah. 4
between each seems a little much to mimic that look there. To reveal a little bit, I was playing around on your window website and it has different options for casing like that. It had no options for a sill or sill nosing, which I thought was odd, but that also happened when I was purchasing my own windows. My architect had to sketch exactly what that sill that was attached to the window had to be. And this one from this photo looks like a continuous sill that extends, again, into the corner casing. That's probably made out of wood, and it's probably slanted down at an angle to shed water, and it's probably got like a drip edge or a drip cut in the bottom as well. And I don't think turning a 1x4 on its side is going to mimic that properly. But that should be something your window manufacturer should do.
Yeah, and it's one of those things after they're installed, like we can all plan in a perfect world, right? But the dimension, even if I have 1x4, 1x6, like it may not be exactly to that on field, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's construction.
Lindsay, I may be asking for what exactly you're looking for. Maybe like an example of a projecting sill profile. Sorry, I'm not trying
in terms of what we would request for the so generally, and they did provide this as part of the application. Mm-hmm. We would just request something like this in terms of a drawing, a profile, and the elevation. And the staff recommendation was just based on looking at a 1x6 being a little more substantial than and projecting a little further out than the typical, or even just the relatively simple ones you can see on the original. So what they've provided is appropriate in terms of the application.
I would lean more towards something that's tilted at an angle, but perhaps I'm wrong. Open to commission discussion.
Hardie makes a drip cap that's tilted, so you can buy it in Hardie board.
Yeah, that's what I was planning to do, but it's hard to show that when you're doing like a drawing, right? And so, but yeah, I guess a kit is the best way to say it, where, I mean, it's just like when you do trim in a house, you layer the trim, right? And then that's what's protected over for the ceiling and everything. I will say what was done before was there was horrible leaks within the home. So I don't want to, I've got to get away from that because the amount of mold that we took out of that portion was crazy.
Was it a continuous sill previously?
I honestly, I don't remember at this point. Yeah. And I couldn't like use the windows because they were painted shut for, I don't know how many times they'd been painted, but there was just no way to open them to see or anything like that.
I would like to get commissioners' thoughts on the 5 openings versus 10 opening windows. Like as it is currently, there are 5 openings across the window. I don't know if you can show that image, Lindsay.
So right now, how we have it, you're able to open every single window in the foyer, in the living room, on the side, and then the other side windows in the living room and the dining room.
Right, we're trying to discuss
Yeah.
amongst ourselves. Hang on just a second. Does anyone have concerns about it being 5 openings and still being casement windows? That's the comments from staff suggest that that seems to be okay, but the comments from the neighborhood disagree. So how do we reconcile those two? I don't want to make a motion if people don't support it, is what I'm getting at. I don't want to have it shut down.
That's a good question.
The neighborhood feels very strongly that they should be twin or French casement windows because that is the key architectural detail on the face of the house, and to modify that would be an objection to the guidelines as written.
Yeah. To respond to Commissioner Hearns, I tend to side with the neighborhood that French openings would be more appropriate. But I'm curious what other commissioners think as well.
Can we see a cut sheet of the window again in question?
Yeah, so I can even provide the new one. So these are the most recent cut sheets.
The current central mullion of the proposed window would lose its prominence in the design.
Yes.
Okay.
I guess I agree with the neighborhood.
I think I do too.
Are you waiting for me to make a motion now? I'm going back to get language.
Sure.
There was also discussion on the side of the, did you get that in your brain too?
Nope. My brain is fried.
I'm just calling attention also to the discussion. The staff recommendation relates to replicating the various 2/2, 3/1s on the side and rear. And the neighborhood representative, Sean, provided a different perspective on that one too. So just to flag that.
As far as the windows are concerned on the side and the back, we can absolutely support staff's recommendation.
There was some discussion over the door. Is the door going to mimic the existing style with the window casings?
I mean, are you asking me?
Yeah.
Okay. If I need to do this, I can't use that door. It's completely rotted out. So I would just have to get that same door basically built again. And the door, I provided a wood door that was a single pane that matched obviously the other doors in the neighborhood. And then I did a fiberglass door sheerly off because I only have so much money to spend, right? Like I have to cut back somewhere. So that's why I proposed that door. And if we have to do the windows that open up, that's going to add another 10 to 15 grand to my window quote. So I know you guys don't take it into account to cost, but at some point, me financially, I have to take account into cost. And I can't have a door that's completely termite damaged and rotted on the front door.
Do you have the existing front door?
Yeah, it's still there. Oh, yeah.
All right, just make sure it didn't end up in the dumpster.
Yeah.
Which is the proposed front door? Can you go back?
Is this? And that's just the light that would go in.
Yeah.
Okay, I was really confused. I was like a solid door. Okay, so that's
No, it shows that can be the window.
a 3/5 light, and the neighborhood prefers the craftsman closer to what was existing that mimics the panes and divisions of the casements. Okay, I see.
Is there, are there photographs of the door and damage to it? In the
Oh, yeah. I mean, you
application?
could walk up to it today and see how bad it is.
But for us to review it, I need to be able to see it in the packet. Has that been submitted?
We just have exterior photos.
But that's it, obviously, today, like where you can see it.
I know it's in opposition to the neighborhood, but if I remember correctly, no one believes that that door is the original door, correct? And that furthermore, the staff recommendation actually was on board with it looking a fair amount different than this old door versus what we don't know what the original door is. Just clarifying.
An argument could be made that when the French casement windows were put in, the door was installed because the pane division matches all the way across the windows and the door.
So the debate or the theory is, should a door in an existing door location rhyme with an enclosed front porch as opposed to more a typical door for the neighborhood? Which I see the value of both, and I would defer to the owner for that, frankly.
Yeah. The original door that I proposed in the first actually had the same amount of pane counts as the windows to match that, but then that one got denied because I was trying to match. I was just trying to let more light into that foyer. So that was the only thing, and I matched the grid pattern on the windows, but it was obviously full glass, right?
Yeah.
So I guess I just, from a design standpoint, which I think would look better, would be doing the same grid pattern on the front door as the windows, but letting more light in, because that's kind of a dark, like, it's a beautiful detail when you walk into that foyer with all that, natural light coming in.
So you would want 8 pane divisions, but larger than
Yeah.
that 2017 photo?
Yeah.
And that's not
So
submitted here.
The previous
though, right?
application that was submitted was a fiberglass door that had simulated divided lights with grids between the glass that matched the vinyl, and so that's why that one was denied.
Okay,
Because
I
it
see.
doesn't meet the guidelines.
I see. So more material then. Okay.
I don't know about emotion. I'm overwhelmed by thoughts. So somebody else can. It's the last day of school and my brain is completely shot. Sorry.
Yeah.
Maycember has gotten the best of me. I feel like it's very important for me to state again, and this is coming from my own frustration as well as the frustration I'm reading from you all. Doing this before the project started would have saved a lot of the headache. Just making that clear for the record. We could have had a lot of discussions and been on the same page prior to the start of the project, and then we wouldn't have to be going back and talking about things that you've already spent money on or things that you've already done that we're having to revise. And I think that's where the frustration is coming from all of us at this point, trying to make this fit back into a box, that it would have been much easier if we had had the conversation at the beginning.
Correct. And I apologize, like, I didn't know that was what was supposed to happen, right? And so now I'm trying to come back and do it correctly. So
Sure.
I get the frustration, but this is where we're at now, and so we have to come to a
Understood,
solution.
but that's where we're trying to get a whole bunch of things all at once lined out for you.
I had a question for Sean. Sorry to keep making you get back and forth. Did you have an opinion on the window trim material or the neighborhood?
That's a tricky one. Originally, it would have been wood. It would have probably been 6 inches wide and 1.5 inches or further deep. But then at some point in time, they put asbestos siding on, and then that sort of, you don't want to cut into asbestos siding to make the trim match what was originally there. Do we have an opinion? This is unique and tough, and we don't want anyone cutting the asbestos siding to make wider trim. It's not worth the safety to the workers. Okay.
So do we need to include the door in a?
If you would like to address any changes to the door from what they have proposed, then yes, you would want to include that in the motion because the staff recommendation included the approval of the door they submitted.
Okay.
And I can make a motion again. Generally, the chair doesn't make motions, but it is 10:42. I don't know if that counts in a exigent circumstance, but I feel like I've kind of got a handle on all of the different moving pieces, unless anyone has any further comment or objection to that rule. Okay, I'm going to make a motion to approve per staff recommendations. Number one, I'm going to go one by one. Pane division on new windows to be on the right side and reflection to reflect pane division of original windows. Number two, the window trim to be revised to better reflect the historic trim's design and use, and trim to be installed on adjoining windows with final specifications to be submitted to staff, and that can be fiber cement. And the window trim to be applied to all elevations, that the revised window schedule to be submitted to staff approval showing locations. A fifth, that the casement windows for the enclosed front porch should be French door double openings. And then a sixth that allows for the proposed front door to be used or a similar door to the 2017 door with an 8-pane division to be submitted to staff for review, possibly with a slightly larger glass opening. If that's too vague, let me know.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussions?
I'm sorry, when you say for staff to review, does it still come back to us or for staff to approve?
Nope, that's an email to Melinda. And let's see.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And that is all of our business here today. Oh, we do? I'm so sorry.
One more.
I tried to get us out. That's fine. All right. 505 East Scott Avenue.
This case includes the installation of shutters on 4 windows on the front elevation, 2 on the east side elevation, 1 on the west side elevation, and 1 on the rear elevation. The proposed shutters are wood with a center mullion and are the same height as the windows, and they will be cut horizontally to mimic 2 tiers. The design guidelines recommend that replacement of wooden features should be based on historic, pictorial, and physical documentation. Secretary of the Interior standards emphasize that changes to a property over time have their own significance, discourage adding features that create a false sense of history, and encourage replacing missing features using historical evidence. The applicant provided 2 pictures that date from 1889 to 1915, which show 2-tiered shutters on 3 facade windows that are included in the request. They also state that shutter hardware was present on the east bay window, but no pictures were provided. The original extent of the shutters is unclear. The original Eastlake-style porch was redesigned and enlarged in the neoclassical style, along with other major facade modifications that have acquired historical significance. A picture in the McClung collection from 1916 shows this completed renovation, and the shutters are absent. The addition of shutters that were not present for the majority of the house's life, and with its current architectural style, creates a false sense of historical development. The shutters are proposed for all windows on the front elevation, but they are placed placed sporadically on the side elevations. The placement of the shutters on the secondary elevations is not appropriate, nor is it supported by physical or photographic evidence. The front elevation shutters can be appropriate because they are supported by documentary evidence. Their limited use will delineate them as new, and shutters can be found on neoclassical houses from this period. Shutter dogs should be installed along with the shutters, and any extant hardware should be reused with final specifications submitted to staff for approval. Staff is recommending approval of shutters on the 4 front elevation windows only, subject to one condition: installing shutter dogs and reusing any extant hardware with final specifications submitted to staff for approval.
All right, is the applicant present?
We are virtually. This is Megan Martin at 505 East Scott.
Okay, sorry to almost skip you. Do you have anything to add to the staff report?
I don't think so. I think this is a good compromise for now, at least.
Okay, thank you. Does the neighborhood have any input on this project?
Yes, Sean Boland, 115 East Scott Avenue, representing Old North. We are absolutely in support of returning shutters if they can prove that they were originally there. Shutters have hinges similar to doors that are cut into the trim. If they can show the trim on the house, have the hinges cut out, then we would 100% support that. In the limited photos that we saw of the window trim, and this was underneath the porch, there are no cutouts in that trim. It's rounded trim. Shutters typically wouldn't be under a porch anyway. Their design was to keep rain out, and that's not an issue under a porch. But that said, if they can prove shutters were on the house, we 100% support it, but we would like it done harmoniously and not scattered in the hopscotch fashion that has been proposed.
All right, commissioners, any questions, concerns?
What are the shutters made out of? Are they wood, custom to the house? Okay.
Sean, what do you think of the staff recommendation for shutters only on the front of the house?
I disagree with it, the neighborhood disagrees with it because there's no evidence that shutters were underneath the front porch. In fact, the evidence proves contrary, so we wouldn't want to do that. If you look at the photos of the homeowners and the windows there, if you zoom in there, the top right, yes, if you zoom in, you do not see any shadows of shutters ever being there on either of those pictures. So I understand the logic and thought pattern, but the neighborhood wants evidence of shutters.
The photos provided by the applicant from 1889 to 1915 do show those shutters below the front porch and also on the top. So 3 of those 4 facade windows have shutters on them. Again, that was before the major renovation to this neoclassical style. I'm not sure if the window trim was also replaced at that time because they did a lot of changes with that renovation. So again, we know that they were present before that renovation on those 3 of 4 windows at least, but they have not been on the house since at least 1916.
Can we make a comment also?
Sure, go ahead.
I think probably there have been shutters at some other point in time. The house currently doesn't look precisely like the 1916 picture. We do have that neoclassical porch. The bricking was done at that time. The what is that? Like the porch railings on the second floor aren't there. Some of that geometric design that is gone, but we have some shutters that are the same size. We have 3 in our garage, and they don't appear to be original. So my guess is that at some point they were installed and maybe uninstalled. On that east side picture, I don't know if you can see it, but that, I don't know if you can zoom in, that upper bay window does have, no, I can provide a different picture. I didn't because it looked like the front was going to be approved, so it seemed kind of obsolete, but we do have shutter hardware on that window still. That's the only one that I've seen. There are no remnants other than that hardware there on the east side. But clearly, we have provided proof that shutters were on the house, even under the porch, with that picture, which was provided to us by the previous homeowner who got it from a descendant of the original family who visited the house under his ownership. And also, I don't know what the process, I do know what the typical process is for gathering neighborhood feedback. I didn't see an invitation to provide neighborhood feedback on this application. There was a discussion on Tuesday, so I am curious about that process. And Mr. Bolin is communicating the neighborhood's preferences, but I don't know that they actually had an opportunity to review this particular application.
Sure. Sean, do you want to speak to the neighborhood organization's process? Or?
Yes, we review and we send out, or I send out a summary of the application with links to the application. I provide my recommendation and feedback is provided to me.
It's a committee, correct?
Yes, it's a group of 16 people. Ultimately, it's the board of the neighborhood gets to vote.
Okay.
But other people have been requested to be added to the distribution, and I see no reason not to.
Well, I agree. I'm typically on that email distribution list, and there was an email sent out on Tuesday, but it recirculated the material for March, and I didn't see a follow-up discussion. So I just want to be clear that there was some process by which neighborhood input was provided on this particular application, because it seemed like there was a deviation from our normal process. It seems immaterial because we're okay with the staff recommendation at this point to just provide or to just put the shutters on the front facade of the house. So I don't want to belabor this, but I guess there are a couple of comments that have been made that felt worthy of clarification.
Any commissioners have any further questions, comments?
I'm comfortable with the staff recommendation personally.
If we approve based on staff recommendation, they can still come back at another time about the other shutters, correct?
Sure, they can. It wouldn't be a denial with prejudice for other windows on the building. And I do find, I find both arguments compelling from the neighborhood and from the applicant. It's possible that there isn't forensic evidence that shutters were there, but they still were there. They could have been tacked on and non-operable. The trim could have been replaced. Maybe the studs and a nail hole tells the story, but I don't think that's really within our purview. It may have been odd to put a shutter there, but it sounds like it was there at some point.
May I? So, and the owners, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this house is unique in that it has built-in interior shutters within the casement of the windows. And if they had built-in original shutters from the interior, it would negate any need for shutters on the exterior.
I don't know if, no, some windows do. We're in one of the rooms where we're proposing to do the exterior shutters, and there aren't any interior shutters. I guess I don't see, is the suggestion being made that the photos aren't accurate? Because if we've provided proof of the house as it was, around 1890, it seems settled that there were shutters on those windows. I don't know how that is really relevant to this discussion at this point.
I'm not suggesting the photos were fabricated or anything like that. People do things for all kinds of reasons. People could have moved interior shutters to the outside because the window was leaking, and that's why it's inconsistent from window to window. That's certainly possible. We're all kind of guessing with what that homeowner was trying to accomplish.
Interior shutters wouldn't negate exterior shutters either. That's very common, especially in Europe. The outside mitigates weather, and then the inside is like for light and airflow. They're two separate purposes.
Okay. Anyone ready to make a motion? Or we can take a lunch break.
I'll make a motion to approve based on staff recommendation.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you all for your work today. It's been a long meeting. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All
Thanks,
right,
John.
we're adjourned.
Yeah.